So in each year in the US, there's 200,000 youth entered in the adult criminal justice each year. That is from an article from the Atlantic. My main claim is that rehabilitation is a better solution for juveniles instead of trying them as an adult. And first, supporting claim is that brain development their brain hasn't fully developed yet. Second is that trying juveniles as an adult will cause more problems for the future. And then third, I'm going to give a personal example. So first, for the brain development, according to the University of Rochester Medical Center, the rational part of a teen's brain isn't fully developed until age 25. So if it's the frontal lobe that's responsible for rational thought, and if this hasn't fully developed until age 25, you can't completely blame a juvenile for the full extent of their actions. So it's not completely fair to try them as an adult for something they can't control. So second, for the problems for the future. So juveniles tried in adult court have higher recidivism rates, which is the rate to reoffend, to recommit a crime that you dealt. If they're tried as an adult, they have a higher chance of doing this. A U.S. Department of Justice review of several large-scale studies found that young people tried in adult criminal court generally have greater recidivism rates than those tried in juvenile court. The recidivism rates are about 70%. That's for all of criminals. That comes from the U.S. Department's website. I don't have it here. So from the Journal of Gender, Race, and Justice, Robert Anthonson says, by disrupting schooling and employment, adult sentencing may contribute to prolonging adolescence and dependency. Moreover, punishing juveniles with adult sentences slows the transition to work and family formation. So when they are tried as an adult, they don't get the same social skills as going through high school or finishing high school, and they become more dependent on people because they haven't transitioned from childhood to adulthood. And the Bureau of Justice statistics, 2/3 of released prisoners were arrested for a new crime within 3 years, and 3/4 were arrested within 5 years. And then third, for my personal example, I had a brother. At the age of 17, he made a few mistakes in his life and was tried as a juvenile, thankfully, and he was granted in-home probation. And with this, he was able to turn his life around. He managed to finish high school, and he is currently in college, 4th year, for his mechanical engineering degree. And so altogether, juveniles should be rehabilitated instead of tried as an adult, because first, their brains aren't completely developed, and two, it will cause more problems for the future. Thank you.
All right, Connor, the phrasing of the proposition is complicated because you've basically got a value claim that you're arguing in there to justify a policy claim when what you're supposed to have is a claim of fact. The argument comes down, here's the simple way of expressing it as a claim of fact. Prosecuting juveniles as adults will result in significant problems. The whole thing about the brain development issue is an interesting point, but your argument is about that it's not fair to hold them responsible if they aren't really responsible. The notion that their brains are not fully developed until the time they're 25 seems to suggest that nobody's responsible for anything until that particular age, and I don't know that that's necessarily a safe assumption to make. On the second argument about the problems of recidivism, basically that's what the whole argument comes down to. If everybody is rearrested at rates of up to 70%, I'm not exactly sure how much worse it could be. Your evidence later on suggests that 2/3 are rearrested within like a 3-year period, and 3/4 of them are rearrested within a 5-year period, and none of that distinguishes whether it's juveniles or adults, and I didn't get what the juvenile rearrest rate was. I didn't see anything that was particular to that. That's a little bit problematic. The first piece of information that you have in the speech is that there are 200,000 youth who come into contact with the adult criminal justice system. I don't know if that means that they are tried as adults or if there's some other connection that's going on, for example, the kind of crime that they've committed. It certainly doesn't sound to me like 200,000 teenagers are put in prison every year in adult prisons. If that's the case, we should have a more direct quote. That's a little ambiguous on that. One of the things that's missing from the argument is the nature of the crimes that require you to be charged as an adult. It's unlikely that somebody would be charged as an adult for some kinds of crimes. The example of your brother, when you said your brother had some mistakes, made some bad choices, when you're talking about bad choices, drug use or something like that, that's one thing, but when you're talking about murder, burglary, rape, assault, armed robbery, that sort of stuff, that's a different thing. And I don't have any information that distinguishes what kinds of crimes people get sent to the adult criminal justice system for in your argument. So I think that that's a little bit problematic. All right, I got to shut up because we